In Perek Tet, the ninth Perek of Mishlei, spoke quite a bit about the value of Chokhmah and wisdom, and the opposite of wisdom, folly. How people who go in the direction of Chokhmah will lead one kind of life. Those who follow the folly, the kislut, the shtuyot, the tipshut, will lead a totally different life. And of course it's a shame, as Salomon points out several times. It should be obvious to one the benefits of the Chokhmah over that which is folly, but not everybody gets the message, not everybody is interested, either because he's a clown, as we will see, or because he's uninformed and he does not want to take the effort to find out. And in the end, the one who loses out is the individual who went in the derech of the folly of the tipshut, and the one who gains is the one who went in the derech ha-chokhmah. Shlomo HaMelech from time to time will emphasize this point again and again to remind us that life is short, and this can make a big difference in one's life. In other words, the outcome of one's life, his sanity, his health, will make a difference depending on the philosophies, the outlook he has, because here we're talking about not only a lifestyle, we're talking about certain hashkafot, and a proper, healthy outlook, values, what's important in life, what should one fight for, and what one should just forget about and not fight for. It's important to know these things. In chapter 10, which we're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks, we're going to once again begin to see a lot of his advice in the various areas of life, where people make mistakes and people do not realize. And in chapter 9, he begins in the early portion of chapter 9 to re-emphasize how unique the Chokhmah is, how it's so well organized, and how it is the right thing for one to do, to learn, to absorb as much as he can, not only because we're Jewish, because it will make a tremendous impact in our life if we follow the ways of the Chokhmah. So let's begin. Pasuk Aleph says, Chokhmot baneta beta chatzeva amudeha shiv'ah. Wisdom has built her house, she has hewn out her 7 pillars. This pasuk also talks or describes a woman who is a chachama, who's a wise woman, and how she organizes her home. But many times Shlomo HaMelech compares the chokhmah to a good woman, compares that which is heresy or idolatry to a bad woman. So here, this chokhmah has built her home, her house, on 7 pillars. In the same way that a home, for it to be well built, needs to have a foundation, it needs to be done in a particular order. The same is true with this world. The world is created with a tremendous amount of chokhmah. You can see the seder, you can see the organization and the order in which everything is. The number 7 is mentioned over here, 7 pillars, referring to the Torah that has come down from the 7 heavens. It is also talking about the Torah which the world was created for. In other words, without the Torah there's no reason for the world to exist. The Torah was created in anticipation that Am Yisrael will eventually receive it and lead a life based on Torah, based on this blueprint. And as long as we fulfill the Torah, then there is reason for this world to exist, a world that consists of 7 continents, again the number 7, created in 7 days. Since we're talking about Chokhmah, there are 7, I think they call them liberal arts, or chokhmot, wisdom, knowledge, that were always known, and they are grammar, logic, rhetoric, arithmetic, mathematics, music, and astronomy. These were the chokhmot that, there are other sciences and so forth, but this was the basis of all chokhmot. Number 7, as I've said in the past, is very unique. All the shviyot have a certain degree of holiness, and they are important. And that is why the number here is used in creation, in describing the foundation of the world, and for where it comes from, where the Torah comes from. She has slaughtered her tevach, in other words, her animal. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. Again, talking about a certain way of organizing one's meal. How does one organize a meal? First you prepare the meat, then you bring in the wine, then you set up the table, and then you call the guests. In the same way, that is how the Torah was given. The Torah was not given to Am Yisrael right away. More than 2,000 years from creation passed by until the Torah was given. What was Hashem waiting for? For the world to settle down, and for 7 generations of tzaddikim to go through. 7 generations from Abraham till Moshe Rabbeinu, you have 7 generations. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kehat, Amram, Moshe. So you see again the number 7? So the Torah was not given right away until everything was settled, until, as we say in English, until the dust was settled. Just like we prepare a meal, just like we prepare or build a home, everything has to be done in a particular order. This whole world is designed with a tremendous amount of chokhmah in order, and you can see it even in how the Torah was given, when the Torah was delivered. As the rabbis also tell us in the Midrash, the human being himself was created at the end. Hashem creates many things before the human being is created on the 6th day. The whole world is created before him, everything is for his use, therefore everything is prepared before he arrives at the scene. That is why some commentaries say that the wine that we're talking about is referring to the rivers and the oceans that Hashem put into this world also in preparation for man to use. Commentaries also say that we're talking about the various parts of the Torah. We have the Mikra, the Mishnah, the Gemara. We also have various types of mitzvot. We have the Mishpatim, we have Chokim, we have Edut. And from all of these types of mitzvot and different portions of the Torah, one can see the beautiful order in which the Torah is formed. Shalha na'arotea tikra al gape meromei karet. She has sent forth her maidens, she calls on the highest places of the city. Commentaries explain that we're talking about Moshe and Aaron, who were the ones that taught the Torah and led Am Yisrael to receiving the Torah. Okay, now that we're done with this introduction of how the Torah came about, Shlomo Melech continues on. Mi peti yasur henna hasar lev amralo. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here, and he who lacks understanding, she says to him what she's going to say. What he means over here is there are a lot of individuals who are petayim, who are simple, who are innocent, you may call them, who are ignorant. And to that Shlomo Melech says there is a cure. We can cure that. The reason why he points this out, even though he said that before, is because there is one individual who almost has no cure, and he's the clown, who doesn't take life seriously. And it's important to recognize these individuals because we're going to soon discuss a very important topic, and that is, to who should we give musar, to who should we rebuke, to who should we make an effort to point out his mistakes, and to who we should just leave him alone and forget about him. So it's important to know that there are individuals out there who belong in a category called clowns. And we don't want to mess with them. He says a petty, one who's just a simple man, ignorant, let him come here, let him approach. There is a tikkun, we can cure him. What's the tikkun? Yasura henna, let him come to the Bet Midrash, let him come to a Shiur Torah, and in this way, he will learn something, he will know something, and he will change his mind about certain things. In the commentaries, there's a beautiful mashal of an individual who came to buy a mirror. He sees 2 mirrors, and he looks at himself in one mirror, and he sees how good he looks. He says, "Oh, that's nice, a nice mirror." The second mirror is apparently a much more polished mirror. He's able to see all the specks and stains and pimples that he has on his face. He says, "Oh, wow. Probably the other mirror is more expensive, the one where I look good in." So the guy tells him, "No, just the opposite. This other mirror where you see all your flaws and all your pimples, this one costs more money." He says, "Why is that?" He says, "Because it's more powerful. It magnifies everything. You're able to see every problem that you have." He says, that's the same idea. Shlomo Melech is trying to tell us the difference between Chokhmah and Kislut. The Chokhmah is much more valuable because it points out all the flaws and all the mistakes that we have. If one allows himself to look himself in the mirror of Chokhmah, he will see his mistakes. Therefore, somebody who's just a petty, we can bring him in, let him look into the mirror, and he will discover what he needs to correct. But whereas kislut, that which is folly, makes things appear beautiful and nice, there's nothing for us to do. And that is misleading. Next pasuk, Lechu lachamu belachami ushtu beyain masachti. He who corrects this, no, that's the next pasuk. Come eat of my bread and drink of the wine which I have mixed. Shlomo Melech is talking about which bread? Not the regular bread. The regular bread that we eat, we work hard for. We work hard to earn a living. So Shlomo Melech says, the same way you work hard for that bread, Lechu lachamu lachmi, go and earn your spiritual bread. You have to be concerned about your spiritual health, the food that the neshama needs, not just your physical body. Lechu lachamu belachmi, therefore go after this other bread. Ushtu beyain masachti, and drink the wine that your nefesh needs. Another example, or another way of describing the Torah as lechem and yain. In the same way that you exert a lot of effort to go after money, to earn a living. You wake up early in the morning, you stay up till late hours doing your income tax return. Right? It can take a lot of hours and a lot of effort. It's important to you because you're expecting a big refund. Kol sheken, the more so, that one should show at least as much chashivut, importance, to receiving credit from HaKadosh Baruch Hu too, by coming to pray, by getting up early in the morning. A lot of people would never want to miss a flight. Some may not even go to sleep that night if it's too early in the morning. Why should that be any different than getting up for a minyan? We have an appointment with HaKadosh Baruch Hu every day. That is the idea that is being expressed over here by going after the spiritual bread, the bread that the neshama needs, in the same way that we go after the bread for our own livelihood. It says, by wine it says masachti, that I have poured, or that I have mixed, because it's also talking about the secrets of the Torah, in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, that needs to be received or poured by a teacher. There's a lot of Torah that we cannot learn on our own, that we need someone to guide us, someone to teach us, to pour the wine for us. Izvu peta'im v'chiyu v'yisheru b'derech bina. Forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. The reason he's telling the petty to let go of his ways and live, because the rabbis tells in Pirkei Avot, Ezu chacham haroeh et hanolad. A true wise man can see the future. He sees the consequences of his actions, and therefore he's cautious what he does in life. He doesn't take unnecessary risks. The petty takes risks. He does not see the nolad. He's not a chacham. He does not see the consequences of his actions, what this will lead to. How many people do you know got themselves into trouble and landed in jail because of some silly thing that they thought they can get away with it? They thought they can make a lot of money, whatever it was, and they landed in jail, and they're spending 25 years behind bars for something that's so foolish. They don't see the nolad. A chacham, a true chacham, really weighs his actions. What is the worst case scenario? And he's therefore careful. Petty is not careful. So therefore he tells us, Izvu peta'im v'chyu. If you let go your foolishness, you will live. You will not stumble. You will not make mistakes. V'yisheru b'derech bina, and go in the way of understanding. In other words, you will do the proper things. If you become a chacham, if you learn the chokhmah. The Gaon of Vilna says another pirush on this pasuk, Izvu peta'im v'chyu. Don't bother dealing with the clowns. Let them go. Don't try to teach them if they're not cooperative. And we're going to see why in the next pesukim. Yosir letz lokeach lo kalon u'mochiach lerasha mumo. Translation of that is, reprove not a scorner lest he hate you, rebuke a wise man and he will love you. The simple meaning is that there are individuals that we don't want to deal with. We don't want to be ridiculed by approaching them. They're not serious. So don't have anything to do with those who are wicked and those who are not cooperative. Another idea that is expressed here is one who has a problem himself should not be in the position to rebuke others because they won't listen to him. He says, you have the same problem. Then why are you coming and telling us to do this or to do that? If one is himself a clown, he cannot be in the position of giving others musar. The idea is that one has to be willing to accept some criticism from others, even if they embarrass him, but he doesn't have to be hit. In other words, if the individual that he's going to speak to is going to mistreat him, then he doesn't have to go to that length of, was out of his way to give musar to an individual who's going to obviously mistreat him. And now he explains this pasuk a little bit more at length. Al tochach letz benisnaeka ocheach lechacham v'yehaveka. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. You want to teach, or you want to give musar to those who are truly interested, not those who are clowns, because he may hate you. Things might deteriorate even worse, your relationship with him. You want to give musar or teach a chacham, and he will love you. Rabbis tell us that one of the best ways to give musar is to not talk directly to an individual. You are like this, and you are like that, you are bad, you did this. It's always best to talk about yourself, and the individual will understand from the context that you are referring to him. This is especially true when you're speaking in public. Oh, we've done this. Use the word we instead of you are like that and you are like that. When you use the word we, it's not direct, and it's therefore going to perhaps have more of an impression on the individual than if you point out to him his mistakes directly. By the way, one has to be very careful and very sensitive when giving musar to one's father, to a parent. Rabbi tells us, be careful not to embarrass them. What you could do is tell him, Daddy, I remember that the Torah says so-and-so, or I remember that in the halakha it is written so-and-so. Instead of pointing out, you can't do that, you have to be careful because you are embarrassing. You may be embarrassing. That's an avon. When you give musar, you have to be careful that you don't embarrass the individual, you don't put him down. Shlomo Melech dissuades us from giving musar to a letz because a clown, has no tikkun almost. It's very difficult to repair him, very difficult to get him to change his ways. So therefore, the Shlomo Melech says, spend your time and effort with chachamim, with those who are serious. There was once a chacham who said, I value much more the musar that a friend gives me than money that a friend gives me. In other words, even though we're talking about a friend, I value more his musar than if somebody else were to give me money or a beautiful gift. The musar is much more valuable. To who? To a chacham, because he appreciates it. Okay, so to who should we give musar? When do we give musar? How much musar? When do we stop giving musar? It will depend if the individual is religious or not religious. In the Torah there is a mitzvah of ocheach tocheach et amitecha. Give musar or tochacha, rebuke, to your friend. That's the literal meaning. From the words ocheach tocheach, we learn that this mitzvah of giving musar means even if it takes you many times, 100 times, to get the message across, ocheach tocheach. Why? Because there's a certain arvut. Kol Yisrael Aravin Ezel Hazeh, we're all responsible for each other. Whoever does not give musar, whoever does not try to correct another individual, it means he's not interested in him. And that is why there's an association with the pasuk right next to that pasuk that says, Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, do not hate your brother in your heart. Well, if you don't give him musar, it means you hate him because you don't care about him. So we're all responsible to some extent. And therefore, from ocheach tocheach, we learn that we have to do it even if we failed once, we did not succeed, we have to try again and again. But it says the word amitecha. It doesn't say just any Jew. Amitecha b'torah u'b'mitzvot. One who's observant, one who's just like you. One that you have a chance of influencing, not just anybody from the street. And this is important because we have the greatest influence over our relatives, over our friends, and over those members in our community. And I just put together 3 important rules when it comes to musar. To who do we have to give musar? Under what situations? What are the circumstances? Any prohibition, any isur that is not clearly in the Torah, and the individuals are not aware of it either, okay? It's not clearly in the Torah and the individuals are not clear of it, whether it's a community or whether it's an individual, then if you think that they will accept what you're going to tell them, if you feel you have a good chance, then of course tell them. But if you feel that they're not going to accept it, on these type of prohibitions that are not clearly stated in the Torah and they're unaware of, it's better mutav shiyu shogegim ve'al yiyu mezidin. It's better that they continue to do whatever they're doing as a shogeg, unintentional, than to do it intentionally. Because once somebody is aware of something and he still transgresses it, it's a much worse sin. So if something is not clear in the Torah and they were unaware of it, then if you think that the chances are not so good that they're going to accept it, you're better off not telling them. Let me just go over all the rules first. Now, if they are already aware of it, then obviously you have a mitzvah of giving him musar, if they are already aware of it, even if it's not so clear in the Torah. Something which is a clear issur in the Torah, like Shabbat, something which is clear in the Torah, then there's a difference between an individual and a community. If it's one individual and it's something clear in the Torah, whether he knows or does not know, you have to tell this to him even 100 times. Until when? Until he starts hitting you. That's when you stop. If it's a tzibur, if it's a congregation, a community, you only have to tell them once. After that, if they don't listen to you, you don't have to repeat it. Why not? Because there's another rule. In the same way that there is a mitzvah to say something that will be accepted and heard, there's also a mitzvah not to say something that will be unheard, that people will not follow. Don't say it. If you know, but you have the mitzvah, the obligation to do at least point it out to them once. That was the second rule, something that is clearly in the Torah. Now, what about those who are not religious at all and are not under the sphere of our influence? Just somebody from the street. If we feel that we have a chance of inspiring him, that he will accept what we say, then obviously we have to try. But if we think that the chances are that he will not listen to us, then we don't have to bother. The best thing to do in this situation is what the pasuk says, Divrei Chachamim benachat nishma'im. The words of the wise, the words of the Chachamim are accepted when they are said calmly, when they are said gently. If you feel your chances are almost nil, obviously you don't need to bother. But you can try. You're not obligated, because the main obligation is ochiach tochiach et amitecha, those who you have influence over, those who are a little somewhat observant. Those who are totally not observant, even though there's a mitzvah, there's an obligation of, because of the arvut that we have, we are responsible for each other. You have to judge the situation, and if you do try, do it gently. Yes, you were going to ask something.
Yes.
Yeah.
With respect to a Jew who is either a clown or thoroughly indifferent, what I understand you to say is that you're not supposed to give the effort. But I've also heard learning which says that you're not supposed to give up on your fellow Jew. So, which is it?
Those who are involved in the mitzvah of kiruv, in other words, those who are very knowledgeable and know how to deal with individuals like that, they have the talent, they are geared for that, that's different. They need to go out of their way to bring Jews closer to tshuva. Those who are not knowledgeable, they might say the wrong things. They might discourage the individual even more. Haven't you heard of stories where somebody yelled at a woman, "Why aren't you covering your hair? You're going to burn in Gehenna." You know what this guy did to her by saying that? She doesn't want to see a rabbi anymore. She doesn't want. You have to be careful with what you say. You have to know who you're talking to. Rabbis tell us to become knowledgeable so that we know how to deal with apikorsim, those who are heretics. And they also tell us, don't talk to them at all if you don't know how to respond to them. The same rule approximately applies to another Jew who's not a heretic, who's just ignorant. You have to be careful. If you are somewhat prepared and you're willing to take a chance, go ahead. But be careful, b'nachat. The question is, am I obligated? You're not obligated if you don't think that the chances are that he will listen. You don't have that obligation. The obligation is amitecha, those who are under your sphere of your influence. That is where your obligation lies. With those who you don't have that similar obligation, but you have something called arvut, means we're all responsible for each other, so there is some connection between every Jew. Do so only if you feel you might be able to make a difference. You don't have to run after him and try again and again if you don't think that you might succeed with him. Unless this is your area, your expertise. Then obviously if this is your expertise, you might be able to do a good job. Where somebody else, an average Jew, would not succeed. So, I'm talking about an average Jew here. An average Jew does not have the tools, the talent, to just convince anybody. The question is, so how much does he have to do? Does he have to go out of his way? Is he obligated? No. Only if he feels there's a chance that he might be able to teach to this Jew what the Torah is, what Shabbat is, then of course you should try. But with those that we have more influence, we're obligated. And even then, it all depends if it's something clear in the Torah, or if it's not clearly written in the Torah, if it's an individual, or if it's a congregation. How much do we have to try? Something which is clear in the Torah, you have to try even 100 times. Remind your son, remind your neighbor, remind your friend, those that you have influence over, this is wrong, this is not right. Until it hits you. That's when you can stop. Next pasuk. Ten lechacham v'yachkam od, hoda l'tzadik v'yosef lekach. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in his learning. To chachamim, obviously, as we said before, you want to give as much as chokhmah as you can. To chachamim, the rabbis tell us, dai beremiza lehakima. To a chacham, all you have to do is give him a hint, and he will pick up on a hint. You don't even have to give him too much musar. Tchilat chokhmah yirat Adonai bedat kedoshim bina. The fear of Hashem is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of holy matters is understanding. This is similar to another pasuk, Reshit chokhmah yirat Hashem. The foundation of all chokhmah needs to be a fear of heaven. Otherwise, all this chokhmah will not make any difference. This is compared to what? This is compared to the Midrash says to an individual who once was so happy that he had so much crop and so much wine. So his friend comes over and tell me, do you have a storage place where to store all this food? He says, no, then you have nothing. If you don't have a place where to store all this food, then you have nothing. A person has a lot of chokhmah, but if he does not have a place where to store it, he does not have yirat shamayim, then it's worthless. B'dat kedoshim bina, he says over here, true understanding is the knowledge of Hashem, the knowledge of that which is holy. As I think Yirmiyahu says, Bezot halel chacham. What should a chacham be proud of? Not that he has an IQ of 210, not that he knows everything by heart. A chacham should be proud of a skill biyado oti, that he knows me, that he knows my ways. There's no reason for an ashir, for a rich man, to be proud of his wealth if he does not use it right, if he does not recognize that this is a blessing from Hashem. A chacham, what should he be proud of? That he's smarter than others? Haskel v'yado oti, if he knows me. So the foundation of chokhmah needs to be yirat Hashem. There's a lot of intelligent people out there, a lot of people who know a lot, but if there's no foundation of yirat Hashem, then all this chokhmah will not do them any good. For by me your days shall be multiplied and the years of your life shall be increased. We learn from this that the learning of Torah has the power or the segula of arichut yamim, lengthening one's life. It could be that through the merit of Torah, that he's been learning regularly Torah, his life will be increased, his years will be lengthened. As was the story told in the Gemara of Rabbi Preda. Rabbi Preda was a very unique individual. There are very few like him. He was willing to teach a child 400 times, because that's how many times it took until the child was able to understand the lesson. Rabbi Preda had the patience to teach a child 400 times. Mi'ashamayim, they told him, in the time of the Gemara, the Tanaim, close to 2,000 years ago. If he would be around today, he would be in the Guinness World Book of Records.
He was 400 years young.
So we see from this that there's a segula in the learning of Torah, ki bi yurbu yamecha, v'yosifu lecha shenot chaim, that the Torah has the segula of lengthening one's life. Another idea that is expressed here is all the days, on all the years that a person spends in shtuyot and havalim, in vanities, in nonsense, those years do not count. There is even a joke, I don't know if it's a joke or if it's really written somewhere, that upstairs there's a different way of keeping track of how long we lived. A person comes upstairs, he thinks he lived 90 years. They tell him, you're only 4 years old over here. 4 years old? I mean, I can prove it. Even on my matzeva, on my stone on the grave, it says when I was born and when I died. He says, here we only count the years that you really lived, what we consider true life. Quality, or all the years that you were in this world and you did nothing, you wasted your time, you played golf, that those are not considered that you lived those years. The true days or the true years that one lives are those years that he spent quality time, immersed in Torah and mitzvot. Alright, next pasuk. Im chachamta chachamta lach. If you are wise, you shall be wise for yourself. But if you scorn, you alone shall bear it. The simple meaning over here is that if you've become smart, if you've acquired chokhmah, you've received tremendous benefit, you have a tremendous gain. If you've clowned around, then you are the only one to blame, and you will bear the consequences. In other words, you will pay for those actions. What does that mean? That one has to pay for his actions. So the commentators explain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us all the tools, the kelim. He gives us a brain. But what we do with that is already up to us. If we misuse it, if we use our brain for something not good, then we will have to account for it. Eventually one will have to give a din v'cheshbon why he did not use his brains, his kelim, the tools that Hashem gave us, for the right things. Like the famous story with Eliyahu Navi and the fisherman. Eliyahu Navi meets up with a fisherman, and he gets into a conversation with him about, do you learn any Torah? Do you set aside time to learn Torah? He says, no, I don't. Hashem did not give me enough brains for Torah. He says, really? He says, what do you do for a living? He says, I'm a fisherman. Well, how do you catch your fish? I make nets. You make your own nets? He says, how do you make your nets? Well, I cultivate the flax, and I sow it, and he goes through the whole mechanics of how he makes this sophisticated net. He says, the same Hashem that gave you brains to make a net, gave you brains to learn Torah. Just excuses of the Yetzer Hara. What do you mean you have no brains? Everybody on his level can learn Torah. It's just the Yetzer Hara tells him he does not have the time, he's not a Chacham. So Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us Chokhmah, gave us the Kelim for the Chokhmah, but the Chokhmah itself is up to us, if we want to fill those vessels with Chokhmah, or we want to fill those vessels with Shtuyot. Eshet kesilut homiyah petiyut uval yada'ama. A foolish woman is noisy, she is simple and knows nothing. Now we're going to the foolish woman. We spoke about the Chokhmah, that was the wise woman. What was good about the wise woman? She was organized. And she did everything with Chokhmah. What is a foolish woman? A foolish woman lives without any heshbon. She has no seder, she's not organized. As it says here, homiyah. Homiyah means that she's noisy. She just talks a lot. She's not organized. Petiyut uval yad'ama. She has no idea of what she's going to be doing tomorrow. Her life is not organized. She knows nothing. V'yashva lepetach betach al kiseh meromeh karet. And she sits at the entrance of her home, at the door of her house, and in the high places of the city. And what does that mean? We're talking about the Yetzer Hara, how just like the Chokhmah calls out, we spoke about the Chokhmah calling out and telling people, come and learn the Chokhmah. The Yetzer Hara, that which is evil, calls out too. Berosh, what was the word here? Al kiseh meromeh karet, at the head or high places of the city. You know what this reminds me of? Billboards. In other words, wherever you look, even in high places, the Yetzer Hara is calling out. And it's incredible what you see these days compared to what you saw 20 or 30 years ago. The material which is up there is mamash gilui arayot, pornography, everything. V'yashva lepetach betah, she sits at the entrance or at the door of her house, meaning that she does nothing. It's important for one to be active, to always be preoccupied with something. A woman who is promoting kesilut, promoting folly, does nothing. And now comes the very important point about this type of woman or this type of influence. Likro le'ovrei darech hameyashrim orchotam. To call passers-by who go right on their ways. To call on passers-bys who try to right their ways. Who is this? Balei Teshuvah. So the Zohar explains in this pasuk that we're talking about the Satan coming down and especially going after those who want to right their way, those who want to become Balei Teshuvah, those who want to become better people. They will have a difficult time. They will have a tremendous challenge, because who will be pursuing them? The Satan will be pursuing them much more than the average Jew. He wants to go after them, discourage them, change their mind, go back to your old ways. And this is a tremendous pressure that Balei Teshuvah have, and it does not only come from the Satan. It comes from family members too. As the next pasuk says, what does she tell them? Mi peti yasur hena v'chasar lev ve'amralo. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. For whoever lacks understanding, she says to him. In other words, the commentators explain part of the strategy of the Yetzer Hara is to use family members to tell the individual who's doing teshuvah, you're a fool. What are you doing to yourself? You're becoming a black hatter? You're becoming primitive? They're actually making fun. And that's all the Maaseh Satan, to use family members, to use colleagues at work, to discourage this individual. And this happens a lot in Israel. One who begins to do teshuvah, you know what he does? What's the first thing that one does when he wants to do teshuvah? He covers his head with a kippah. He arrives at work, and with all his non-religious colleagues look at him. Who died? Who died in the family that you're wearing this cap on your head? Because they know that, when a secular Jew wears this, probably he's going to the cemetery or somebody died in the family. That is how they begin, to make fun of him. And you know what? Not everybody can take the pressure. A lot of friends of mine had a difficult time when they were doing teshuvah in Mexico. Their parents were still secular. They had to fight their parents. You know what it is for a son to tell his mother, I'm not eating from your plates? I'm not eating your food? A son not to eat the mother's food? I mean, he ate it for so many years. No, mother, just tuna cans. Or paper plates. This is what the rabbi told me. Who is this rabbi? I want to talk to him. And this happens a lot. And they come and they yell at the rabbi, what are you doing to my son? You're brainwashing him. So the rabbi is going through pressures too. But this is the life of the Baalei Teshuvah. What if somebody became a Baalei Teshuvah after he's married? He has to deal with a woman. What are you doing to me? You're ruining my life. Shabbat, I'm used to going to the beach. What do you mean you have to stay home? And the kids, taking them out from the public school and putting them in a Jewish school, it causes a tremendous amount of pressures. There was a soccer player who did teshuvah, and they offered him so much money to just come back and play on Shabbat. And he knew that was the Satan. They already prepared him that this will happen. Just let go. Come, we'll offer you a lot of money. Yeah, and it's interesting, when he was not religious, he wasn't making so much money. Dafka now, when he's letting go, that's when all the offers are coming in. Other Baalei Teshuvah have a different problem. They were doing very well when they were secular, and all of a sudden after they do Teshuvah, they're broke. They're fired, they have no job. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they're observant. It has to do with another fact, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu mechaper lahem avonot. Hashem loves them. These are the very sincere Baalei Teshuvah. Hashem says, you know what? You have a big account with me. You have a lot of debts. I need to clean them up. You better clean them up here than upstairs. So Hashem sends a package, Federal Express, of Yesurim, of pain, whether it's in areas of finances or other areas. And some Baalei Teshuvah who are weak don't understand. Wait a minute, I thought I was getting into a better life. You are getting into a better life. This is the truth. You're doing the right things. But there will be some side effects. Like when we take medication, there's some side effects. There will be some side effects. And those side effects are for your benefit, for your good. It has to do with an old account that you have. There's a very nice midrash about this pasuk. How the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, does not give us peace. It always goes after us. There was once an older man who married a very young woman. Very old and very young. It does not always work out well. But anyway, it happens. And this young woman, she was young, so she was always bothering her husband. You know what? I want a dress, I want a piece of jewelry, I want this and I want that. Every other day she came up with other demands. And the old man was getting tired of this. One day he decides to sit down with her and explain to her, listen, this is how much I make, this is my income, and this is my expenses. There's no money left for all these things that you're asking for. And the woman tells him, I don't care about all your heshbonot, all your calculations. I want this and I want that. So the rabbis tell us that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara does. The Yetzer Hara says, don't give me your heshbonot. No, I don't want to hear about your heshbonot. The neshama wants to do a heshbon. Is this kidai or not kidai? Is this worth it or not worth it? Does it really pay for me to do this or do that? Every Jew who has a neshama, we all have a neshama, but whoever is paying attention to his neshama will from time to time make a heshbon ha-nefesh. Was I wrong? Is this correct? But the Yetzer Hara does not allow us. He interferes with the cheshbon ha-nefesh. No, it's good for you. There is, for example, there's a story of an individual who told the rabbi, you know why I embarrassed him in public? This man, it's a mitzvah to embarrass him in public. But the rabbi says, if you embarrass someone in public, you could lose your afterlife, your olam haba. It pays to lose one's afterlife, but to embarrass him in public. That is how the Yetzer Hara talks to an individual, to try to justify everything. Not allowing one to make a true cheshbon nefesh. Is this worth my time? Is this really worthwhile or not? Just like that young woman who does not care. As the scientists say, the secular scientists say, I've already made up my mind, don't confuse me with the facts. Have you heard that? That's the way the Yetzer Hara says. Just do what I say. Don't confuse me with the facts. These are the facts Shlomo Melech is saying. And what are the facts? We're going to see in the next few Pesukim what those facts are. Ma'im genuvim yimtaku velechem setarim yin'am. Also famous Pasuk, stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten is secret and pleasant. And bread eaten in secret is pleasant. Does this sound familiar? That which is forbidden is sweeter. There is even a whole argument amongst the politicians. Legalize marijuana. Once you legalize it, there won't be such a big Yetzer Hara to go after and try it out. We don't, of course, agree with them because people are crazy, right? But that is a fact, that something that is forbidden is sweeter. It tastes better. And that is what the Yetzer Hara tries to do in convincing. Try this out. It's sweet. It's good. And that's why it's very tempting, because it's forbidden. The reason why it says lechem and ma'im here, stolen waters and sweet bread, or hidden bread I should say, is the water is referring to znut, to prostitution. The forbidden bread is referring to those who covet money, which is forbidden. In other words, there's two kinds of ta'avot or yetzarim over here, the znut and the money. That which is forbidden sometimes becomes more tempting. And finally, we've come to the last pasuk actually of this perek. V'lo yada ki refaim sham be'imkei sheol kirueha. But he knows not that the dead are there and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. Even though all of this is sweet and it's tempting, the one who goes after does not realize at the moment that he's going after them that it's leading him to death. It may be even shortening his life. Ordinarily, all human beings have a set amount of time how long they're going to live here. It could be 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 99, whatever it is. But there are things that we can do, as we said before, to lengthen our lives, arichut yamim, through the Torah. And there are things that one can do to shorten his life. I'm not talking about smoking now. Obviously, when one over smokes, he's shortening his life. We're talking about certain ma'asim that Hashem says, you know what, you're not doing your job here. I'm going to fire you. I brought you into this world, and you're going and doing something completely different. You're opposing my ways. A person can shorten his life. There are certain things, he says, that may appear sweet, but in the end, it leads to Sheol. It shortens a person's life. It takes him to the depth of Sheol, of Gehenom. So, how do people make this mistake? The rabbis say very simple. A person does not do an avera until a ruach shtut enters his mind, a spirit of folly. One would not make this mistake, unless, of course, he's ignorant or he does something unintentionally. But to do something that you know is wrong, and a lot of people know something is wrong, but they still do it. There's some ruach shtut that is entering their mind. What's this ruach shtut? What is the shtut that is convincing this man to do an avera when he knows we're talking about life in prison or Gehenna, whatever it is? What is the ruach shtut? The answer is, there's various explanations of what this ruach shtut is, but the basic explanation is, many people really think they can get away with it. That's it. They can really get away with it. And that's why they're willing to risk their life to do something. If they can only make a couple $1 million by smuggling drugs, they have it all made, and they'll retire. The problem is, let's say they got away with it the first time, they will be tempted to do it again. Well, I didn't get caught the first time. They don't realize that the Satan is pushing them in that direction. Do it again. Eventually, you will be caught. It's very easy money. That's the ruach shtut. Easy money, won't get caught, retire, and that's it. Won't have to work hard. But what's the chance that you'll be caught, and what will happen if you get caught? They don't think about it. They don't think about it properly. There's a ruach shtut that's telling them, no, I can get away with it. But what do we know? We know, as the rabbis tell us, that all our actions are being recorded. Hashem is aware of everything. So how can one think for a moment he's going to get away with it? It's only a ruach shtut. To say that Hashem does not see? But it's the Yetzer Hara that is working at all times. And that's his job, to get one to do the wrong things, to not go after the chokhmah, to go after that which is folly. The message towards the end of this perek is as follows. Shlomo Melech is telling us in this perek, towards the end of the perek, that there are really two ways. There's the way of the chokhmah and the way of the kislut, of the folly. There's a lot of cults, there's a lot of groups out there. In the days of the rabbis, it was a lot of idol worshipping, of the Avodah Zarah, all sorts of religions and beliefs. But they still exist today in different forms. They have different names. They're very powerful. Many Israelis fall into this trap. Many Jews in this country fall in the trap of the cults. And Shlomo Melech reminds us, hey, you are a chacham. You have some knowledge. You have some vessels. You have some tools that Hashem gave you. Examine, compare. And if you do a real good comparison, you will see hands down that the chokhmah wins. That they have nothing to sell you. It's all lakshan. It's all not garbage. It's all sheker. Where did they come up with all these ideas? It was a committee that invented it. It was one guy who had a dream. How could you give up what you have, your heritage, for something else? But many are ignorant. But even if they're ignorant, they're not excused. Why? You have no excuse for not trying it out. It's in your own backyard. Open up a book. They're just brainwashed by these other cults. That this is primitive, this is something from the past, it's been replaced by another religion. All sorts of ways that the Yetzer Hara tries to convince, and who are the ones that fall? Usually the ones who are ignorant, who have no Torah, who have no Chokhmah. They have no way to defend themselves. Those parents who put their children in a public school are not giving them the kelim, the tools that they need to defend themselves. And even those who've gone through a Jewish school and who've learned Torah do not have all the tools to defend themselves either. You have to be very knowledgeable to be able to see the trap that they're laying. One has to be knowledgeable to understand that the Yetzer Hara will try anything he can to bring down even the greatest rabbi, even the greatest tzaddik. And great people have come down too, as he said all along in the first few chapters of Mishlei. This does not only affect those who are below, those who are not so knowledgeable. These tachbulot of the Yetzer affect even those who are very knowledgeable, as the Torah says about bribery. The bribery will blind the eyes of those who are wise, of the chachamim. Shlomo Melech thought that he was a wise man, and he made mistakes too. If one does not take time to analyze his actions, he will make a mistake. Rabbis always tell us, be careful. Before you do something, ask yourself, who's giving me this advice, the Yetzer Tov or the Yetzer Hara? Before you do something. If you always ask yourself this question before you do something major, you will not make a mistake. Because you will see, this cannot be the Yetzer Tov telling me to do this. It couldn't be. It has to be coming from the Yetzer Hara. Ask yourself, try this out. And you will see you will be saving yourself from a lot of trouble. Typical example, you come home, and you have reason to be upset. And if you start yelling or cursing or doing something worse, it's not coming from the Yetzer Tov. We lose control. But if we stop for a moment and think, wait a minute, first maybe I should give the benefit of the doubt. Later perhaps I should ask. And then if I have reason to be upset, but people rush. And because they rush, they make many blunders. Shlomo Melech tells us, take your time to analyze, examine this beautiful chokhmah that you have, and you will see how much better this chokhmah is compared to everything else that is out there. Adapt this chokhmah, live by this chokhmah, and you will make no mistakes, and you will not stumble. B'ezrat Hashem, by learning all this good advice from Shlomo Melech, by learning the Torah, B'ezrat Hashem, we will have not only a lengthy life, we will have a healthy life. A life that of the right attitudes, of the correct values. We will not get upset at things that we should not get upset. We will not fight with people unnecessarily. We will have the right amount of bitachon and faith in Hashem and rely on Him when things are not so good. And that is what we're going to be talking about in chapter Yud. More about bitachon and Hashem, how to understand why certain things happen, how to deal with them. Because even though the Chokhmah tells us that everything is min hashamayim, not everybody has the courage to live by that Chokhmah. So it's not enough that we learn it, we have to apply it in our lives. That's step number 2. A lot of people are going to learn this and they're going to forget about it. And that is why we said in the very early Perakim, we have to repeat and review these lessons from time to time that we don't forget. Lessons that are not reviewed, people who do not review these lessons, they will forget them. These are very important lessons. You want to know who to become a partner with, who to associate with, who to trust. Shlomo Melech warns us about how to identify certain individuals, what to look for in a woman when you're dating, what to look for in a man. And, believe it or not, you will eventually see that he discourages making big weddings, spending unnecessary money just to impress people. Why get into debt for the rest of your life just because you want to impress people? But some people have this weakness. Where does it all come from? Pressure. There's a lot of pressures out there. We talked about the pressure of Balei Teshuvah, but there's other pressures that people have. No, he's done something like this. He's bought himself this car. He's made this wedding. I got to do the same thing. These are pressures. And if one is not strong, if one does not have all this chokhmah, he cannot deal with this pressure. He falls. He copies. He does what they do. Peer pressure is very powerful. A lot of people are influenced by society because of these pressures. Shlomo Melech says, you want to be careful with that. Become a chacham. Become knowledgeable in all these important, valuable lessons, and you will be able to defend yourself, B'ezrat Hashem, in life. Okay, so B'ezrat Hashem will continue next week with Perek Yud.